Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome. Today in chapter 20, we're going to talk a little bit about some common problems that you see or hear or even smell on your car and what that might indicate. So let's get rolling here. Onboard diagnostics. Onboard diagnostics has been on many vehicles since the 80s, actually. But in 1996, a new OBD2 onboard diagnostic system was mandated and standardized some aspects of the diagnostic system, usually located underneath the dash near the steering column. And that's here in this picture here, you can see that's what it looks like right there. That's what we plug into. Here's a smaller scanner. The scan tool plugs into the data link connector and retrieves any diagnostic codes that have been stored in the power control module, or PCM. Now, just because it pops up and gives you a code and has something to do with an O2 sensor, for example, doesn't mean you run out and buy an O2 sensor. It just gives you an area to go to start the diagnostic procedure, okay? And there is a proper diagnostic procedure for each code that is retrieved from the computer system. Just don't want to start throwing parts at cars, okay? You can access OBD2 codes by using your smartphone or even a tablet. You'll need to purchase like a wireless little adapter. It'll help communicate with the app. Here's a really inexpensive one, and this one just will flash some lights. But really, you need something kind of like this to get the codes out of there. More expensive scanners, of course, will give us actual data on the vehicle on, for example, what the O2 sensor is reading, coolant temperature sensors, what they're reading, intake air temperature sensor, et cetera, vehicle speed, that sort of thing. But you can get some inexpensive scanners to just pull the codes if that's what you'd like to do. Malfunctioning indicator lights and gauges act as problem or potential problem indicators. There's all kinds of things that can pop up on your dash there. Learn what these lights mean by going to your owner's manual. This is a good place to start right here, so you know what these little symbols mean. Some of them are more obvious than others. This one here is fairly universal when this comes up looking like that. It's a check engine light. It illuminates if the power control module detects an emission system or engine performance problem triggered by one of the sensors. Okay, if the emissions coming out of the tailpipe are higher than federal standards, it's going to turn this light on your dash. Okay, this doesn't mean change your oil. This means you need to have it checked. Okay, if it just flashes one time real quickly, I wouldn't worry about it. Just keep an eye on it. If it's on all the time, that means we need to plug in a scanner and find out what code is in that particular system. If it's rapidly flashing, you should probably stop the car at that point. That means there's something pretty doggone severe going on. It's pretty rare to have one that's constantly flashing. Most of the time they'll come on. Sometimes they'll come on and they'll go off, and they'll come on and they'll go off. You still need to have those checked out. Okay. If the coolant temperature exceeds the normal operating range, a warning light should come on. And here's an indicator of it right here. There's one. Vehicles have different ones. Some vehicles have an actual gauge. Some have a light that'll come on. We need to make sure we check the coolant at that point, or the overflow bottle may be low as well, where some extra coolant is stored underneath the hood. If this light comes on, you might want to stop the vehicle immediately if you can, in a safe situation anyway, or pull over. Means that either you don't have any oil pressure, maybe the wire came off of the oil sending unit, or you're low on oil. Okay, so none of those three are any good. So we definitely want to get that checked out. Here's another problem here. This is electronic power steering. If that light comes on. The fault light for the electronic power steering illuminates, there's a problem with the electronic power steering system, possibly. You know, one thing I want to talk about also is when we do get these codes on the vehicle, sometimes you can get 4 or 5 or 6 codes, and this is why we just don't want to jump the gun and start throwing parts at cars, because one code could cause a problem that's now affecting something else down the line and can trigger another problem with the vehicle and the way it's running, and it'll trigger another light and set another code and another code and another code. So once again, there are proper procedures for checking these codes when they come up. Tire pressure monitoring system, TPMS, that comes on if a tire is significantly low. If that comes on, you might want to check your tire pressure immediately. Make sure, always have a tire gauge in your car. That's always a good thing to have in the glove box. It's an extra tire gauge. Check the tire pressures. Some vehicles, it'll actually even tell you which tire is low. Some, it's just the light that comes on. Okay, that's to prevent you from having a problem going down the freeway with a tire with 15 pounds of air in it. That's a disaster. That's when tires have a tendency to want to explode when they're running low on air going down the freeway. They build up a lot of heat and they can explode. So these tire pressure monitors can be a lifesaver, actually. Wrench is generally a power control related problem, although sometimes I've seen these come on when the vehicle just certainly it's just time for a service, like an engine oil service or something like that. Something needs to be serviced. Again, check your owner's manual. It'll tell you exactly what that indicates. Okay. The charging system light indicates that the battery is not being charged. Doesn't mean the battery's dead, but it's going to be pretty soon. So when that comes on, we can have a fan belt that came off of the alternator. The alternator could have failed. The regulator could have failed. Any one of those things could cause this particular light to come on, and the battery eventually is going to go dead. If the brake light is on and the parking brake is not engaged, check the brake fluid level in the master cylinder reservoir. Okay, it might be a little bit low, and there might be a sensor there that is seeing that the fluid is a little low in the reservoir, and it'll trigger this light. So if this light comes on and we need to start looking at the brake system, if the fluid is low in the reservoir, then we might be getting time to needing brakes on a car as well. Fluid level's fine, have a technician inspect the system. That's true. If this light comes on, this brake warning light, it may also trigger this ABS light, which is anti-lock brake system, right? So that's a problem with the anti-lock brakes. And anti-lock brakes are a good thing to have. They keep us from skidding when we're applying the brakes, and allows us to control the vehicle while we have our brakes applied, so the wheels don't lock up. So if that comes on, you're going to have that inspected by a professional technician. Fluid leaks, fluid colors. This can help us determine, hey, I got this color fluid on the ground. I wonder what it might go to. Of course, oil is generally black or golden brown. Automatic transmission fluid is generally a red color, pinkish red. Manual transmission could be any one of these colors. Power steering fluid is usually a really light color, or golden brown, or it could be red as well. And coolant can be red, orange, green, or even nice to see some of the Hondas are blue. So we have different colors there. Again, check your owner's manual for that. Smoke coming out of the tailpipe. All right, this is always a good one. If there's a lot of black smoke coming out of the tailpipe and you own a gasoline engine vehicle, not a diesel, okay? So let's go with just regular gasoline car. That means the vehicle is running too rich. It's using too much fuel, okay? Overloading the system. It's kind of like if you just threw way too much wood on a fire at first, it just smoked, right? It's a lot of smoke. So that's too much fuel is being used. Could be numerous things that would need to be checked out. A blue smoke indicates that the engine is actually burning oil. And that's not a good thing either. It could be going past the valve guides or the piston rings. If it just does it once in a great while, it's probably not a big deal. But if it's having blue smoke all the time, it's going to be pretty much due for a partial engine overhaul or complete engine overhaul. Okay. And the worst one, well, it's just my opinion, white smoke right here. White smoke indicates that coolant is getting into the combustion chamber. That's not where the coolant needs to go. Okay, if the coolant goes in to where the spark plug is and the fuel is in there and it all starts to fire, it's going to turn out to be a lot of white smoke. Okay, not good. That's definitely engine overhaul time at that point. In the morning when we first start our car and it's cold outside and you have a little bit of steam coming out of the tailpipe, perfectly normal. But if you have lots of white smoke coming out of that tailpipe, it's getting coolant into the combustion chamber, time for an engine overhaul, most likely. Unusual smells. Well, you can smell rich fuel. Rotten egg smell. That means the engine catalytic converter is probably getting too much fuel into the catalytic converter, and it ends up smelling like rotten eggs. Here's a real common one. If it smells like a sweet odor, you probably have a coolant leak. Coolant has kind of a sweet smell to it, if you will. So you want to be looking for a coolant leak at that point. And if you smell something like a burning smell, you may have electrical problems as well. But really, I just wanted to let you know about the sweet smell and the rotten egg smell. Those are conditions that need to be looked at. How about a squeal from the engine when we first start it up in the morning, or when we're accelerating? That could be a loose or a glazed serpentine belt or a V belt over the alternator, water pump, power steering, et cetera, or it could be a bad tensioner and the belt just isn't tight enough, and it'll squeal. That definitely needs to be, that would be the area to go look at. If you have a high-pitched squeal from the wheel area that goes away when the brakes are applied, for example, you back out of your driveway in the morning and you don't have your foot on the brake and you hear this really high-pitched squeal, and then you step your foot on the brake pedal and the squeal goes away as you're still rolling, it's probably this wear indicator right there, okay? Or if you want to call it a warning sensor, that's fine. Wear indicator, warning sensor, same thing. That little tab right there, it's probably rubbing against the rotor because the brake pad itself right here, where my little arrow is, has worn down to the point where this little wear sensor rubs against that rotor and it makes that high-pitched squeal. Okay, so you definitely would want to get the brakes checked if this is one of the things you hear from your vehicle. How about a clicking sound from the wheel area when the steering wheel is sharply turned one way or the other and then you accelerate away from a stop sign or a stoplight? That could be a worn outer CV joint due to a torn CV boot and all of the grease has flown out of it. And now you have dirt and contaminants inside that joint there where they have ball bearings in there. And when you turn really tight and you take off, it's going to go click, 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 click. And as you straighten the steering wheel, that sound may dissipate actually a little bit. You definitely would want to be looking at the drive, the constant velocity shaft, and the outer CV joint. Okay. Engine overheating with steam. You got a lot of steam coming out from underneath your hood. Be careful about opening up the hood right away. Don't want to, you don't want to have a bunch of steam coming at your face there. So you may just want to wait a little bit. Okay. Could be a hose, could be cracked radiator, something like that. And once again, when you do open the hood and you're checking your coolant, make sure that you don't open this radiator cap when it's hot. Okay, because you could have a lot of steam come at you, and that's just not good. So just be very, very, very careful when we get with cooling system issues if you see a lot of steam. Okay. Shaking. This is always a good one. A shaking or vibrating automobile can cause potential dangerous driving situations. Tires out of balance, belts broken inside of a tire, worn suspension, steering components, transmission problems, worn CV joints or U joints, broken motor mounts, transmission mounts, and engine misfires, and it all cause shaking while you're driving. One of the most common ones is 50, 55, 60 miles an hour and you're driving down the freeway and your foot is not on the brake pedal and the steering wheel is doing this little thing, little shake, just a little shake like that. More than likely a tire or wheel is out of balance on the front of the vehicle there. If it's perfectly fine while you're driving 55 or 60 and you just start to step on the brake pedal, and as soon as you step on the brake pedal, the steering wheel shakes a little, the brake rotors, okay, which we saw right back here, this rotor right there is probably warped a little bit, and these brake pads are oscillating in and out, and that's going to cause your steering wheel to shake, okay? Only when you apply the brake pedal, if it shakes, that would be a rotor problem. Right? Those are two really common ones. If your vehicle is pulling in one direction while you're going down the road and your foot's not on the brake pedal, check your tire pressure. Could have a low left front or right front tire. If they're perfectly fine, you can also cross-rotate the tires because you could have what they call a radial tire pull. Let's say your vehicle's pulling to the right and all the tire pressures are good, the alignment is good. You cross-rotate the front tires, okay? You cross-rotate them over. Now, all of a sudden, the vehicle's pulling to the left. Well, more than likely, you have what they call a tire pull on the left front tire now, which was on the right front. You can also try moving them to the back of the vehicle, too, if you'd like. See if it goes away. If all else fails, check the wheel alignment on the vehicle. Inspect wiper blades for damage. If they're torn right down in here, you know, we should change those things, right? My recommendation would be to replace the wiper blades in pairs. You know, if you're gonna do the left front, do the right front. Sometimes they're different sizes, so you wanna make sure that you get the proper size. You can measure them. And of course, at a lot of auto parts stores, they got a little computer or a book you can look up to see which size goes on there. I would recommend replacing the entire blade and not just that little rubber part right there. I mean, you pay a little bit more to replace the entire assembly, but you got yourself a good wiper blade that'll adhere itself onto the window and get your windows clean. Very important when we're driving down the freeway and it's raining. Here's a little advice here for you, if you will. Anytime it's snowing or below freezing outside and your car's going to be outside, let's not have these wiper blades frozen to the windshield. That's not very good on the rubber portion of the blade. And if you accidentally go to start your car in the morning and the wiper blades are already on the wipe, run position, you could snap some components, and it's not going to do the wiper blade any good. This wiper blade is not a snow removal tool. It removes rain from the window. So you may want to pull that away from the window at night if you want to, if you think it's going to snow, or at least make sure you pull it away from the window before you start your car and using it as a snow shovel. Okay, they're not snow removal tools. All right. If you have a little nail in your tire, you're not sure if you should pull it out or not. You don't know if it's actually leaking. You can put a little dishwasher detergent in a bottle with some water and spray the area where the screw or the nail is. And if it bubbles up, then you know that definitely is a leak. Also, you can spray it around the valve stem area. Okay, make sure that's not leaking. A lot of times these rubber valve stems will leak. And you can also spray around the bead portion of the tire and wheel area right there. See if you have any leaks. Here's also a goodie. People come in to me, hey, my car won't start. Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go with that, right? So first thing I say is, does it go, right? Does it crank over? And if it doesn't crank, well, then at least I know where to go, right? Don't need to check any spark or fuel, right? We'll just check the battery, condition, starter, etc. Those items right there. If it will not crank and you go turn your headlights on and you walk around the front of the car and the headlights are perfectly bright, well, your battery is probably okay, and you may have a starter issue, or you could even have an ignition switch issue, or even possibly some connection issues at the battery. But the battery is probably fine if you got nice bright headlights. If you have no lights at all and the car won't start, well, we need to probably start with the battery or the connections at the battery. Okay. If it cranks, if it goes and doesn't start, well, then I don't need to worry about the battery and I don't need to worry about the starter motor, right? Or the alternator, because the engine's going round and round and round. I would definitely need to check fuel issues or spark issue. Just a matter of breaking it down which way to go on the troubleshoot tree, if you will, by just knowing those couple of things. Broken fan belts, if that happens to you out on the freeway or something like that, we're probably not going to fix something like that out on the highway, and we probably shouldn't. We should probably get the thing towed off the highway into a safe location, your own home or an auto shop or something like that. I wouldn't be messing around trying to fix something out on the highway, particularly if it's something like this, a fan belt. A tensioner could have broke or a pulley could have come off, and you're just not going to really fix it out on the highway. So that's just my advice. Jump starting a vehicle. This is a very simple thing to do to help somebody out of a tough situation. It's also one of the simplest things to do to fry a power control module in a vehicle and fry a lot of electrical systems. So you want to make sure you do this correctly. And this is a step-by-step instruction here, and I'll just go over it real quickly. First thing you want to do is put the red connector on the weak battery's positive post. The positive post is the biggest post. It may have a red connector on the post, or it may not, but it's always the biggest post on the battery. It's the positive one, okay? So we hook it up there. We hook the other corresponding red end to our positive post on our good battery, okay? We're in good shape so far, right? Then we hook up the negative cable end to the negative post, the smaller one, on the good battery. And then the last thing we want to do is hook up the negative cable end to a bare metal area underneath the engine, particularly maybe on the engine. And it actually might spark a little bit. That means the rest of your 3 connections are good. If it doesn't spark, you probably don't have good connections. The reason we want to put it on a piece of bare metal is if we were to put it on the post here on the weak battery and it creates a little bit of a spark, there is a remote chance that this battery could blow up. I mean, it does have hydrogen fumes in and around that battery. And we don't even want to have a chance of that thing blowing up. So we always just want to go on a piece of bare metal, and if it sparks a little bit over there, that's fine. I just don't want to spark anywhere near or on top of these particular batteries, okay? And then you can try and start the vehicle with the bad battery. If it doesn't start, then go ahead and start up the good vehicle with the good battery and let it run for 10 or 15 minutes. Then turn off the good running vehicle and then try and restart this weak battery vehicle. If it still doesn't work, make sure you've got these connectors on there really good. Work them into the metal and to the lead of the batteries. Kind of work those little fingers in, so you got to make sure you get good connection. And if it doesn't work, then you may have to just simply replace the battery. Some vehicles, instead of going to the battery itself to connect these, will have these little jumper blocks and underneath the hood. And here's one right here. It's just a remote jumper block that eventually goes to the battery. So you can hook up your cables, your positive cable to there, and you can hook up your negative cable to this negative jump start post right there. Some vehicles have that. You just check in your owner's manual or go ahead and look underneath the hood. This is something a little controversial, but you know what? If you had one of these cans in your trunk and you're out in the woods and you ended up with a flat tire from a nail or something, I would definitely want to put these in my tire so I can at least get the tire inflated and get it to a tire shop to get my tire repaired. These do have some fumes inside of here that can cause an explosion at a tire shop if there's any spark around the tire. If they're filled with this stuff. I don't even know exactly what's in here, but there are warning labels on these cans to let the tire person know that, hey, I used this fix-a-flat stuff to get out of an emergency situation, and people that change tires will be appreciative of that. So there you go. Okay, so that's it for that. Thank you for joining me today. Thanks for hanging in there. Until I see you again, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.